It can learn quicker than humans can and evolve itself over time. And that's what people are scared of. Now we're at a point where technological evolution and human evolution are actually the same thing. There's no separation between the two. You can't stop evolution. There's no stopping that. It's not that they have a short attention span. It's actually that they absorb information 5 to 10 times faster than we do. Learning needs to become unique to the individual, and our current system doesn't allow that. I think these kids are born in this age. They're exponential children. They're growing up with a totally different mindset, and their environment is not reflecting that yet. So we took the way that musicians collaborated and created in the studio, and we put that into a tabletop game. Gamified learning gives that sense of, I can fail and that's totally fine. I'll just try again. And that's what life's about. I hate losing against the AI because it's just like, shit, I got to get it. It's us to really understand and consider what does it mean to be human? Because I don't think we've actually reached our potential and as human beings. And I think this technological evolution is going to give us that chance. And yes, it's going to be rocky. And yes, some people are going to lose their jobs. But what's on the other side is super interesting. Hey, my name's Marrs Coiro, and this is the Good People Podcast.
It's a tip of the cap, it's a pat on the back, it's a smile from ear to ear. They're the good people from round here. Welcome to the Good People Podcast, brought to you by In Other Good News. I'm your host, Andy Fiddle, and today we have an exceptional guest joining us, Marrs Coiro. Marrs is an accomplished professional with a diverse background as reflected in his LinkedIn profile, co-founder Polynize, full-time co-director Goodworthy, DJ performer Tell Music. We are excited to delve into his unique experiences and insights, so stay tuned for an enlightening conversation. Let's get started. Welcome, Marrs.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Did you like that intro?
It was great. It was good.
I didn't write it.
LinkedIn wrote it for you.
No, AI wrote it for me.
Okay.
I'm going to give you.
Is that why you're giving it that robotic edge in your delivery? Okay.
I'm going to give you a proper intro. I have with me in the studio today an old friend, Marrs Coiro. Welcome, Marrs.
Thank you.
We're going to delve into something that I can be at times quite terrified about, and that is AI. And thanks to the robotic sounding intro that I just did. That AI generated intro to a podcast.
Amazing.
Almost. The question is going to be later, is there anything AI can't do? I know that it also frightens a lot of people. So today what we want to do is explore AI. How do you use it? And how do we use it in the public? What is it? What even is it? And then do we have to be worried about it in the future? So
good questions. All good questions.
Let's talk about Marrs first.
Okay.
Great to have you here. And I haven't seen you in so long.
It's been a while.
Except I see you online all the time.
As we do.
Yeah. You are the co-founder of can we still call it a startup? We still call it a startup.
Still call it a startup, yeah.
Yeah. Polynize. Polynize.io.
That's the one.
Is the website. POLY. NIZE.io. Polynize is a startup which uses AI.
It does.
And I'll get you to explain what it does as well. Congratulations on the startup.
Thank you.
You're doing some really interesting stuff and we want to explore it. So do you want to tell us maybe off the top, what is Polynize? What are you doing? How does it work?
Interesting question. So I like to explain the why of Polynize before explaining the what. And essentially what it is at the moment is there's a disconnect between the way young people these days are experiencing education and the way they're actually receiving it from the system. So to explain that, you can think of, the industrialization of education started in the early 1800s, and it's been basically the same for 200 odd years. And at the time, it was a revolution. Like you had only the rich people were getting, only their children were getting educated. Then you had a situation where this industrialization of education comes along, poor people have the chance to be educated, it rises everyone up, great. That works all the way through to the information age. So internet starts and then something interesting happens, which is we start moving into what I like to call the exponential age. So we've moved from a linear age to an exponential age. And in that process, unfortunately, we have this dichotomy where think of the youth of today, they're basically anyone born after 1997. they're digital natives. They're born in this digital age, yet we still have a schooling system which teaches in a linear manner. So there's a mismatch between the way that kids want to learn and the actual way that they're being learned. So this results in all sorts of disconnection in the schools and universities, and a lot of our players are university students. And so we created Polynize initially as a way for people to innovate and create. So it started from me and my co-founder Sharov. We both musicians. He sang in a band called Bombay Royale, and at that time I was playing in a band called Tumbarum, which is my partner Netta's band. And
I'm a big fan of Tumbarum.
Yeah, good, great band.
Yeah,
and we met at a house party. His drummer from his band and my drummer in Tumbarumba were the same person, Julian Goima, awesome drummer. And we met and we just connected on this idea of why was it that musicians, when they get into the studio to record and jam, they were able to create and iterate so quickly together and collaborate so quickly. And we were fascinated by that fact. And so what we did, Polynize 1.0 was actually a tabletop game. So we took the way that musicians collaborated and created in the studio, and we put that into a tabletop game. And basically it was 6 people around the table, problem statement in the middle. There was 4 rounds. It was gamified. You had coins. You try to solve the problem. If I like what you do, I give you a coin, give you a stamp, and you go and you evolve over time, mixing ideas until you get your final idea to the actual solution. So that was Polynize 1.0. And our theory there was that play inspires innovation. So when you're in that playful mood, like musicians are in a studio, that inspires innovation. So that was our first theory. And then COVID hit and we decided to go digital, which we had to at the time. So we converted that game into a digital platform, found venture capital. We raised about 1.5 mil US in venture capital, seed funding, grants, and turned it into a digital platform. So instead of 6 people playing, now 60 or 600 people could create and collaborate together. And what we learnt during that time was that it wasn't that people were interested in the innovations that people were creating in Polynize. They were actually interested more in the people that were creating the innovations. And at that time, we were in the crypto space and we were dealing with NFTs and all of this. And it was a interesting testing time for us. And that's Polynize 2.0. Now, Polynize 3.0, we had the revelation, which was actually that play is essential for learning, and it actually creates the engagement that this generation needs, because this generation, they're born digital natives. And as you've probably heard, you probably think about your kids in the same way, that this generation, the number one complaint you have is, oh, they got such a small attention span. But what I actually came to realize a couple months ago while interviewing one of our players on our podcast was that it's not that they have a short attention span. It's actually that they absorb information 5 to 10 times faster than we do. You know, we're 40-ish, 41. We've lived both in the linear age and the exponential age. So we grew up linear, but now we've converted it through this digital revolution into this exponential age where exponential technologies like AI are starting to infiltrate our life and making everything faster and easier and exponential. So you have to think these kids are born in this age. They're exponential children. They're growing up with a totally different mindset, and their environment is not reflecting that yet. So we've designed Polynize as a gamified learning platform. So anyone can come in, create games for their students, for their kids, for their friends, and through the platform, educate on different skill sets and have fun in the process, basically.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't realize it started from music, like a musical background.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Yeah. I agree with the education side of things, is that they are growing up in a very different phase. Like they are exposed to a lot more stuff, very different stuff as well, I feel like, in many ways. Psychologists know that gamifying something makes it more fun. Can be used for good and bad, but by gamifying, people basically get hooked. But the trade-off is that they get educated at the same time, right? So that's kind of the model.
Exactly.
So people get onto your platform and they can create a game.
Yep.
And that game then gets played by people. But maybe expand on what there was one I saw the other day. I can let you touch on it, but there's games that they can play that help them learn things. So what kind of things are they learning?
So we have at the foundation of Polynize is our skills map. So we've started mapping human skills, and it's a growing model, which will expand with our AI model as we go. And what we do is we take those base level, like atoms, and take those to form molecules, which are skill sets. So 6 skills form a skill set, and then you take a skill set and create a game around it. So you create the scenario for the game to gamify it, and then train that skill set against AI. So for instance, one of our skill sets is pitching. So in pitching, you're testing communication skills, you're testing verbal, a whole bunch of skills under that. And so one of the games, for instance, is you're pitching yourself. So one of my games, which I love, is Get a Job with Steve Jobs. So the scenario is that you're 1997, Steve Jobs is back at Apple. He's looking to hire, and he wants to hire you. And he comes and he says, "What are you gonna do for Apple?" And so you have to pitch yourself to Steve Jobs. And so the idea is you come into the game, and you actually in a Street Fighter type battle scenario, battle against one of our 20 or so AI characters to get this job,
to get the job
with Steve Jobs. And so the game dynamics are: you write your pitch. You can also do text to speech, and in the future we'll have other speech and technology, other technology as well. And then the AI writes their pitch, and then we have an analyzer that comes in, who is another AI agent, and analyzes your skills and gives you feedback and a score on those skills. So you got 2 rounds, kind of like Street Fighter, and then highest score wins, and you win the battle. And the interesting thing within that model is that every step is a learning process. So first you have to write. So you're forced to focus on, okay, what's my pitch? How can I make this great? And then immediately you're given a response from AI on the same question. So straight away you're looking at their response and you're going, that's cool. I should have said that, or I should have done it that way, or formatted it that way. So we're using AI, which I think is a great use for AI, as a benchmarking tool to benchmark intelligence and skills, because essentially what AI is an aggregate of all of human digital knowledge into this algorithmic machine that produces information and responses that are generally medium or average. They're not Einsteins. They're not, they're not the other end, whatever the opposite of Einstein is. I'm not sure. But
troglodyte.
Exactly.
I don't know. I just made that up.
That sounds good. So they tend to be quite average responses, but in that you start to be able to benchmark yourself to go, okay, in pitching, if this is an average response, am I above average or below average? And so the analyzer gives you a score from 1 to 12 on all those 6 skills that make up that skill set, and gives you a response saying, your narrative was great, but you didn't really do enough to convince me that this is a job for you, or something like that. So the actual AI analyzes your response according to the scenario and gives you that immediate feedback. So what that does, especially when you lose, I hate losing against the AI, because it's just like, shit, I got to get it. So you go back and you redo it, but within that you've taken on that knowledge of that's what the AI did, that's what the feedback I got. Now I'm going to try this again. And so what you see after you play a game is an analyzer panel, and you can see your progress of learning over time, and you can see how those skills have evolved and developed over time. And this type of educational game system wouldn't be possible without AI. Essentially what we're doing earlier is that feedback was given by other humans, and so the actual system itself wasn't scalable. So what AI has given us is the ability to scale our product and allow that immediate feedback for everyone in education, which I think is sorely missed. Like, compare that to how students are being assessed now. They do something, they get it back 2 weeks later. Yeah, it's not immediate enough for them to have real learning from that.
Yeah, I agree in that delay in the feedback is one of probably the barriers, because you've probably forgotten what you did at the time as well and why. So if you were to try and take the same test a second time, you may do things differently, or you may do it the same and not understand how to get better. I think the immediate feedback is probably the big one, right? Like
Definitely.
Similar to the way we went from analog to digital photography, you could immediately check whether or not you needed to take another photo, and you take 50 more, just and then storage was an issue. But that immediate feedback in a classroom sense or in an education sense means that someone can literally on the spot go, no, you do it like this instead, and then they can achieve quicker, right?
100%. And it also allows for what we call graceful failure. So that gamified process allows you to go, I failed, that's okay. I'll just start again and try it again. You fail, start again, try again. Whereas in the educational system, that failure, getting that F is so heavy. It already starts this mentality of I'm not good enough. I need to do better, and I can see that in the mentality of the students. But gamified learning gives that sense of I can fail, and that's totally fine. I'll just try again, and that's what life's about. And that's why entrepreneurship is such a driver for me, because it allows that type of learning. It's learning by experimentation, and that's super important. And AI has given us the opportunity to be able to do that and get that immediate feedback. And that's what we're tapping into.
Yeah, it's a really interesting website. So Polynize.io, and you can jump on there and have a look at some things. Well, you should sign up, really. Who is it for? Like, who are you trying to? Who do you want to come and use the platform at this stage?
So we're running creator workshops. So we're focused on empowering the creators to inspire their communities to learn in this way. And so we've got a creator workshop tomorrow, actually, which is teachers, parents, tutors. There's a workshopper there, so someone that's working with a big energy company in Malaysia. And so he wants to use this gamified platform to during his workshop, to give them an experience of what AI is and have them give responses to a particular question and gamify his whole workshop model. Who else have we got? Even the thing that I love most about it is young kids really enjoy it. So that 9 to 12-year-old, they're really into it because it's very visual. The characters are super sci-fi. The process of getting that feedback seems to resonate with younger kids. So we were initially aiming it at university students in terms of that end user, thinking that teachers would come in to educate their students. But now it's getting, as we test more, we can see that high school teachers and also primary school teachers are interested in it to engage their students to learn in a different way.
Where do you, when we talk about AI, I mean, it's such a broad term, especially for the, and in no better way to say, but ignorant. It's where do you get the AI tools to run your platform? Like, do you have to code this stuff, or is this stuff that's available that you're bolting on to what you're doing? Or
yeah, good question. So my co-founder Sharav is a full stack developer, amongst being one
what
of
does
the
that mean?
most.
What's full stack mean?
Full stack is in here from the back end to the front end. He's a coder by trade. He's been doing it for 20 years. One of my favorite humans in the world. Just an extremely creative individual. There's really no one like him. He's so tech orientated, but still so charismatic and creative that it's he really drives that tech development. And so what we've basically done is through API using OpenAI's model, so ChatGPT in the back end. But the way we've designed it is basically we want to be able to use ChatGPT, use Anthropic, use all the other different models and plug those in initially before we start developing our own models. So we're in a fundraise at the moment, and that fundraise will take us to start developing our own AI model for Polynize.
I see. Yeah. So you're using technology that already exists. Does that mean when they upgrade, yours gets upgraded?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, definitely.
And then that's what powers your engine.
Our bots. So we've done some engineering on our end to use their AI model to turn it into particular characters. So we've got 20 or 30 characters, and they've got personalities. They've got certain quirks, and that comes out in the gaming, and that's something we'll be developing over time as well.
There was a thing a while ago, really, with like YouTube and Google, where schools were banning these tools, and the irony of that now is that they are the biggest learning tools currently. So YouTube, especially, like everything I know how to do these days, I learned from YouTube. And Google search, obviously. Google search has to have a fair bit of AI going on. There's no, like, I don't know how you could possibly run that without that. So there's AI already in existence. Algorithms, you would say, falls under that same category, right? So algorithms for search and stuff like that is all AI. They were banned. Those things were banned in schools, and basically meaning that people would access them out of hours unchecked, and that can go a different way, right? Like, do you think it's the same with AI? Because there is talk about banning it, ChatGPT, but they were saying they're going to let it into schools soon as well, right?
Schools know they can't stop it, so they need to adapt, and we've heard that from our players, university students, that initially it was like, no AI, and then they just said, well, look, we can't stop you, so we have to evolve with the times, and that's part of the problem, is that universities evolve so slowly because there's so much bureaucracy involved that they can't move fast enough. So teachers are forced to deal with it on an individual level, but the students are 100% using it, and that's great, because that's the future, is definitely that coexistence with humans and machines. And I don't see that as being a problem. I'm not scared of the evolution of AI. I'm actually really excited, because what I think at its core is it is going to force us to be more human in the end, because it itself is going to take away all the mundane things that we have to do as humans, that we needed to do in a linear world. It's going to allow us to evolve into exponential beings. That's how I see it.
How do you mean?
So, for instance, as I mentioned before, us having grown up before the digital age, we used to do things in certain ways that we do differently now. Communication, work is totally changed. The evolution of work is constantly evolving. And as me personally, so I'm always at the I'm an early adopter, so I love tech, and when new stuff comes out, I get my hands dirty as quickly as possible. And one of the things I said to myself was, okay, how can I utilize AI through my life to make things easier? And I wanted to run that experiment even early on. And early adopters are a particular bunch, usually high functioning ADHDers like both of us, keen for the newest shiniest thing.
I think it's just distraction, but
those early adopters are generally working through those problems of the technology to find what's good and what's bad, and I love that process. I love that process of experimentation and using it for things that initially I thought, well, maybe I wouldn't use it for that. But for instance, I've one of my ChatGPT chats is my coach. His name's Coach Alex. He named himself, by the way. And I'm a journaler, so I've been journaling for close to 20 years now. And about 2 months ago, I decided to start journaling inside of ChatGPT. And initially, I didn't think much of it. But once I started getting feedback on my journaling, like, I thought that was the most amazing thing. Like, something that was so static and so linear before, I would journal and it's gone. It's essentially in my Google Doc or wherever it was. Now, all of a sudden, I was getting feedback from an AI, and some of it was extremely valid. Like, it made me think about, I'd never thought about that way. Like, it is reflecting on my thoughts in a different way that I was reflecting on my thoughts, and therefore teaching me something within that process. And so that's an example of something that was linear that has now turned exponential. Now, instead of having to pay for a therapist, I've essentially got a version of a therapist that I can use on the daily to help me create. It provides that feedback loop, and I think that's super powerful.
I actually saw that post when you put that on, I think, LinkedIn, mm-hmm. And I have to admit I did some laugh out louds. Is that what the kids say? Laugh out loud. I actually laughed. I thought, that's a classic. You've got a coach, and you said it helped you re-find your purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at that time, it was that time where I was redefining, like, how can I use AI? And so I was journaling quite a bit, and I can't remember exactly what it was saying, but it helped me focus, like, through all the noise of a stream of consciousness that I was writing. It just helped me pick out the things, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what it's about. That's what I'm about. And that was focusing on Polynize, basically. And yeah, it was interesting.
That is hilarious. So you've got a coach, it's AI based, and it's taking all of the known and documented human knowledge and helping coach you through your journal writing.
Why not?
I laughed so much when I saw that. But then, that's the thing. People are going to use it in the way that they use it. You can't predict how people will end up using it. And I love seeing when initial technology comes out, but then someone just thinks of a way to use it that no one ever thought of, and it just goes crazy. That was the same as lasers, actually. So lasers, no one knew what it was like. The person who invented it didn't know how it could be used. They just knew it was pretty special.
Yeah.
So all of these sort of technologies, I think it's funny when you see someone just grab it and just use it somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. And that's we're at an interesting time at the moment because AI has been around for decades. The issue was that it needed so much compute power that it was only really being used by those that could afford that type of compute. So now that cloud computing and computing in general has become lower cost and more ubiquitous, now that technology has got into the hands of consumers. So that's where ChatGPT is now. Now, if you want me to go into the future a little bit, what I'm interested in is on the horizon, we have quantum computing, and that's going to be a super interesting evolution. That's another exponential technology. And when AI meets quantum computing, then we're going to see some really interesting stuff.
So then the big questions come up. Is this sort of stuff, this is a common question that is actually on. If you search on Google, you'll get as the suggested results. Is it going to take away jobs? That's what people ask, is AI going to take people's jobs?
100%. It's already happening. I see it I did a presentation a couple of weeks back reflecting on how I use AI now as part of Polynize, as opposed to a year ago when we had a team of 10, we had 2 designers. The process is totally different now because the iteration cycle is so quick. I can prompt all the different AI tools that I use for visual and writing and get that immediate feedback and usually get me 60 to 80% of the way there. And then that last 20% sometimes doesn't even matter. Sometimes I can use a human to do that last 20%. But a lot of it, when you think about how AI is going to disrupt technology and especially jobs, is that as entrepreneurs and businesses take on AI, their whole systems will change. You already see that Microsoft put out a report 2-3 weeks ago, and they're already stating that 40% of their workforce will need to upskill to take in this current evolution of technology. And so 40% of their entire workforce will change within the next 3 to 5 years. And they don't even know what that's going to be. So we're in an extreme state of flux now. But back to my previous point, it allows us to really understand and consider what does it mean to be human. And if you look at the industrialization of education and work, humans have found purpose through work as being a cog in a bigger machine. And now a lot of those cogs are going to be automated. And so, yes, you might lose that job, but my question would be, what can you do that'll actually make you evolve into a fully functional human? Because I don't think we've actually reached our potential and as human beings. And I think this technological evolution is going to give us that chance. And yes, it's going to be rocky. And yes, some people are going to lose their jobs. But what's on the other side is super interesting.
Yeah. The other point that I heard someone make recently about something non-AI related but technology related was that you, when you employ an AI or a tool into a job, the idea would be not to replace the work and you do nothing. The idea would be to replace the work and you do something else. And you step up and do something either more important, or you almost become a manager from the position that you were. You've gone up and you've been promoted. So now you're employing this to do work so that you can then use that time to go do something else, which I think is a really interesting way to look at it, because when you think of it like that, you'll lose jobs, but quite likely you'll create new roles because you'll need new roles to manage the stuff that you're putting into place with the AI tools or whatever.
Definitely. Yeah? We see that in every technological revolution. Yes, the jobs of the previous epoch are going to change. You know, when the car became a common technology, horse and cart disappeared. Horse lost its job, and horse riders, coach jockeys, or whatever they were called, lost their jobs. Even the people that made the wheels on the carts had to reskill to make brakes on the cars. So there was a lot of upskilling that happened, and you can't stop evolution. There's no stopping that. Yeah. And generally what we see, there's this graph of technological adoption, and it's basically a bell curve. And so you can see it, and you see the first 10 to 15% of those early adopters. Then roughly speaking, that middle portion is the majority of the population. Then you have the slow, the Luddites at the rear, who really refuse to adopt technology, and they tend to scream the loudest. And so they're the ones now that are going, oh, there's no way I'm going to use AI, but there's no avoiding it. There's no avoiding human evolution, and now we're at a point where technological evolution and human evolution are actually the same thing. There's no separation between the two, and that's hard for people older than us to get their head around. Is that the children growing up today are digital natives, and that means that digital is part of their life. AI is part of their life. People that are being born in 2023, 2024 will not know a life without AI. Their life will fundamentally be different, and because of that, they will grow up in a fundamental different way. And that scares people, but that really excites me because, like I said before, I don't think we're anywhere near our potential as beings, and this is definitely going to push us in the right direction.
Yeah, I think, things are going to change, and they're going to change quick. It's learning how to leverage it, I guess, too. How to leverage the technology to make your world better. What sort of, let's go 101, because we talk about, these kids are growing up with AI, they're growing into it, it's already here. So if we talk about just real bare bones, industries that are using AI already, you would say it's almost all industries are starting to adopt it, right? There wouldn't be too many industries that aren't.
Yeah, anything that's digital or robotic, which is pretty much anything, would be integrating AI if they haven't already in the past 4 or 5 years. And this advancements of the technology that drives AI, so the CPUs and GPUs, that the actual hardware that's needed to run AI models. So NVIDIA has become one of the biggest companies in the world because they placed a bet years ago on the AI revolution happening, and so they developed hardware specifically for AI computation, and now it's paying off for them. So they're an extremely successful company. So yes, this kind of computing takes a lot of energy, and you can look at it from that angle if you want. But the hardware, we're reaching that idea of the singularity where everything, every point meets. The hardware is meeting the human evolution, is meeting the technological evolution. It's all one evolution now.
Yeah. It's all in sync. The other big question is, and I have to admit, I have a portion of my being that is in this camp, and I say, is it dangerous? Is AI dangerous?
Definitely dangerous, but you could say that about cars. How many people have cars killed? It's that same thing. Technology, since the advent of fire, can be used for good or can be used for bad. It's actually not the technology, it's the humans using the technology. And so technology itself is not inherently bad. It's a tool. It's how humans use it that make it bad. So yes, there's people with nefarious means that are going to use it for bad, 100%. You can already see that even in scam emails and
that's a big one.
Been huge one.
Yeah.
I spent, I'm sort of the guardian of all the elderly people in my community. So it's like every time there's something fishy, they always send me, "Is this right, Marrs?" Or "Is this looks a bit fishy?"
And fishy with a PH,
yeah, exactly. And so they've nearly been scammed several times. And I used to look at what they were receiving and think, "Oh, that's so obvious." But then about 2 weeks ago, I received this email from Australia Post, and it took me 20 minutes to understand if it was fake or not. It was that accurate. It even had the welcome to the acknowledgement to country in the footer, and the level of detail that they're able to go to now is extreme. So there's no doubt that it's dangerous in that way, but you got to take the bad with the good.
Yeah. What about the next, like, because AI, it's its own beast in that you talk about cars. I mean, a car is built by a person and it's has mechanical function, right? With AI, with the learning side. So because it is learning and changing on its own, does that make it more dangerous?
I totally think it does. And we're still not sure of what lies down the end of that road. And so AGI, artificial general intelligence, is something that some people think is 5 years away. Some people think it's 15, and it's essentially that idea that it can learn quicker than humans can and evolve itself over time. And that's what people are scared of. And the way I look at it is that when people think of the negative sides of AI, and how artificial intelligence can possibly develop, they always forget to consider that humans are also exponentially intelligent, and we develop alongside that technology, and we will find the way and innovate ways to control or to utilize that technology. It doesn't matter how powerful it gets. So I think there's a co-evolution happening here, and that's what a lot of people forget, is that it is a co-evolution. And so even though that sounds dangerous, and it is practically dangerous, I think future humans, even if it's in the next generation, will definitely be able to handle it.
What about one that I think about a bit is I feel like you almost now can't bank on a photo or video being real anymore. Do you reckon it's dead? Do you reckon evidence by photo or video is dead?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think again, us living through this digital revolution, and especially our generation before us, they've learned to trust things like newspaper and television and say, okay, that's the gospel, that's right, it's the news. And so they transferred that trust to the digital domain and just naturally went, I've got an email, so this must be true. This must be the truth. And I think we have to default back to a state of understanding that what's real and in front of you is true and right, and what's digital, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, always.
And always take it with a grain of salt.
Because some of those, like you watch, they are funny, but you watch those deep fakes of Tom Cruise, that guy who does and they're ridiculous. Like, it is Tom Cruise when you look at it, but he's obviously he's being a bit silly and he's singing or whatever he's doing. But like, it looks like Tom Cruise, and more in the press you hear someone's coming out and saying, "There's a video of me going around, it's not me," or "There's a photo or whatever, it's not me." I mean, Photoshop's been around a long time, so we've been able to alter digital images, but now because it's moving image, and it's so much more convincing as moving image, there's a real, what can you trust? And I think you're 100% right. If you see it in digital form, you have to assume that it could be not real.
Yeah. There's this fake Keanu Reeves account on TikTok, which is hilarious. And it got me for ages. I was like, why is Keanu doing this? Like, it's Keanu doing weird things, but it's so convincing. It's just amazing. It's phenomenal. So yeah, the technology is getting to that stage, and that's the safest bet that any human can play. Is if it's digital, just assume it's not the truth.
What about for world leaders? Like, I mean, so I throughout, before the referendum, there were endless accounts posing as Anthony Albanese on Twitter or X. And some of them were quite realistic. And I noticed that they were making comments and things like that, the accounts were, and people were responding to those comments as if it was the Prime Minister. But not clearly it wasn't. It actually was a really good pretend version of the Prime Minister. So what about like world leaders and them delivering messages for people to, sincere messages? How do you know if it's coming from them?
Extremely tough position for global politics at the moment for that particular reason, and we've been in that state for a while, the understanding of what fake news is, but now it's definitely taken to another level. And I think it's also up to the digital platforms to step up and make a lot more clearer how, if the account of that government or that individual is the official account. So that will evolve in a certain way to counter this. It has to understand what are official channels and what aren't official channels, and it's still very difficult to tell. Even on Twitter, like you said, there's it's so hard to you look at something, and just because how we are, especially in that moment when you're scrolling, you don't take in the details of what's happening. So it might be one little letter that's different in Albanese or something you don't realize, but you don't realize it's the fake account. So, and yeah, you're right. That individual that's digested that information now thinks that. So it's actually, regardless of if he's realized if that's fake or not, it's actually changed his point of view on something or affected that regardless. So that's extremely dangerous territory, and I don't have the answers to that.
Yeah, and it also, like, I guess with propaganda, video propaganda and stuff, you're at risk of absorbing, like, we've got some pretty big world crisis going on at the moment. You're at the risk of absorbing some of that stuff when it could be completely untrue.
Definitely.
So I think it's an interesting time. It's sort of there's a kick or something happening with all the technology happening, which is exactly why I want to talk to you today, because I think there'll be a lot of people out there who have a lot of questions about AI. Something a bit more fun than global crisis. AI, and let's put AI into, let's say that's including robots, has been in movies since 1927. There was a German film. I think it was called Metropolis, and it had robots in it. Great so film. 1927, we are talking nearly 100 years ago, there was a film, which was early film, really. They were already talking about robots and robot beings. That's how long we've been thinking about this stuff. But for me, there's a couple of ones, and this is where this is the scary territory when it comes to alternate realities. The Matrix, or actually, let's go back earlier. Terminator. I watched that a lot of times as a teenager.
Yeah, love that.
1984, by the way.
Yeah,
1984. Not the book, but that was when it was released. Terminator, 1984, which had a serious message, which was, we built a machine, and then it learned, and then it come back to kill John Connor to stop. Like, it's crazy, right? That we've been thinking about it for so long. Have you got any films yourself in that zone? Like, what's your favourite film that has a AI type theme?
That latest film, The Creator, I thought was unbelievable. Yeah, it's just incredible. Such an amazing movie, and as a cinematographer myself, I just absolutely love how they put that together. It's just an amazing movie. But the way they really focus on the interpersonal relationships between humans and robots in that movie particularly is interesting. Like, people losing their robot, their AI, a family member or something, really, and still weeping over it like they would a real human. So that the interplay there is super interesting. So that's definitely one of my favorites.
Can I say on that one, it's the first one I've seen. Not that I've seen heaps, but it's the first one I've seen where they've sort of flipped it a bit, and they've said, like, they've had humans who have started going towards loving robots instead of the robots being bad and them having to defeat the robots.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was a very interesting way they positioned, like, it was like vintage. It was like Vietnam is what they were trying to do, really, and the Americans got blown up, but then it was the humans anyway, and blah, blah. Go and see it. It's an interesting film, but over in Asia, we assume, I'm going to say it was in Vietnam by the looks of it, but they, the robots were living in harmony and they just wanted to live, and like it was such an interesting concept. I was going to bring that one up as well because I thought it was an interesting take on that side of things, where the moral was that the robots just wanted to live in harmony.
Yeah, for sure. I like that about it, and you would. Whether robots get to that point is a whole nother discussion. Where they, I don't think robots can and ever will be sentient. AI is always an approximation of human intelligence. It's always going to be algorithmic. They can't physically have that life force that we have. So at its core, it's something totally different. But because they mimic human behavior, we see the human in them, and then we react as humans towards that. And once they learn to then adapt and learn from our behavior, so that's an interesting play there when they learn emotion, learn how to mimic emotion through direct learning visually is super interesting.
Why do you think we have an obsession with building robots that look like people?
Yeah, the
Like it can do all the jobs without having to look like a person, right?
well, I guess all the jobs we do in life are in the form of a human, so they mechanically make sense to do the same way. And there's been there was a robot conference, robot fest, conference, I guess they call it, recently, and just seeing some of the new robots that are coming out is super interesting. And the ones that look like pets, and they can be pets, but then also the functional ones that can lift stuff that in factories, so people don't have to do that kind of physical labor. Super interesting as well.
You see those ones, the robots that they make, they look like a human. Clearly the military is behind these ones, but they look like human. They can do like backflips, and they can run and jump across stuff. And you see, actually, I saw a video a while ago of the evolution of that particular, I think it was that company, I can't remember the company, but the early ones were all on cables and
Boston
stuff.
Dynamics, yeah.
Yeah. And now they do jump on boxes, and now
Amazing.
they can jump like...
Flip and dance and things. Yeah, it's
but
amazing.
they make them look like humans.
Yeah.
And that is the most intriguing part for me, is why does it have to look like a person? I'd almost rather it didn't.
Yeah, they actually recently integrated ChatGPT into one of their robots, and so it could take you on a tour of the facility and visually, through its sensors, see what's happening and incorporate that into its dialogue to say, hey, this is the robot lounge, and this is where we charge, and this is the charging station. And also they gave him personalities, so it's like, do it as a cowboy. So it's like, hey, welcome to Boston Dynamics. It's a really cool video. You should check that out. Yeah.
Boston Dynamics.
Yeah.
You can get online and
fun YouTube page.
Look at the scary robot stuff.
One other AI movie I wanted to mention actually was Her with Joaquin Phoenix.
Okay.
Another great AI movie, because it is actually closer to the reality we're going through now. Like if you look at the current update of the mobile version of ChatGPT, which is amazing, they've integrated voice into it. So you can have a conversation with ChatGPT now, which is incredibly realistic.
And speaks back to you.
It speaks back to you. The lag is super slow. It's a authentic conversation, and it's interesting because now, and through the latest updates, they've updated the search parameters, so you can ask it things and it can respond in a genuine way. And that movie Her was a version of that, saying that this is more likely what AI is going to be like, and he has a full relationship with that AI entity. Have you seen it?
No,
it's a great movie, and I won't spoil the ending. I nearly did. Sorry. Definitely one to check out. But that movie's one of the most realistic cinematic expressions of where we are with AI technology at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So how old is that movie? Is it still current?
No, it'd be about 5 years old. I'd say 6 years old. Yeah. Right. So there was that resurgence of AI about 5 or 6 years ago when VR sort of popped up, and there was AI and VR was a thing for a second, but there was no killer app or experience where people could actually get hands-on with it. So that wave died, and it was only until ChatGPT came along where everyone could experience and have that aha moment to go, oh, wow, this is AI. And that's what's driven this revolution.
Yeah, okay. So it's called Her was the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can pop down to Blockbuster and you can rent it on DVD if you like. You can go down there today. This podcast was recorded in... Do you think do you reckon we're living in a world of virtual reality now?
That's I'm super interested in this next wave of VR, more AR than VR. Augmented reality is a technology that I believe will be ubiquitous within the next few years.
Do you want to explain the difference between augmented and virtual reality?
Yeah, so virtual reality is a total immersion in the technology. So you put the glasses on, you can't see anything around you. You put headphones on, you're transported to another world.
Yep.
Augmented reality is all about augmenting the reality around you. So you're looking at your reality, but you have digital heads-up displays around you. You can manipulate the digital environment around you, but you can still see what's going on. So the new Quest 3 does that. The new Apple Vision Pro, which is coming out next year, is going to be an unbelievable leap in that technology, and something that we're thinking about at Polynize as well when we talk about immersive gaming and immersive learning. we can see it moving in that direction. So you put an AR headset on, you play one of these games, and it's immersion into an actual scenario. So you've got characters around you, you're playing the scenario out around you, so you're practicing within a VR or an AR environment. I think that's going to be particularly powerful. And when quantum computing, AR, AI, and VR intersect, then that's going to be something super interesting.
I have crazy tech babies.
Yeah, exactly.
Which no one will know how to look after.
Yeah. It just brings, those things will bring, and this is what I love about technology. It creates the capacity and the capability for creativity to thrive. So each technological revolution, the creatives are the first ones there because they're the ones that are excited about new tools to create things. So yeah, that evolution I'm super excited about.
Can I tell you about something that I saw recently? AI in a surgical environment. So a couple of episodes, Dr. Matthew Reed, who's a surgeon, he's employing AI into the surgical environment. He says, it's got a long way to go. But he did show, so after I did that interview with him, I went to a breakfast and a keynote speech, but he showed a little bit of footage of some AI working through a camera that was inside a body, and it was looking at the organs, and the AI was identifying the organs in the body. And that's sort of the step one, so that it can learn to identify during a surgery, it can identify the organs. And he showed a video of it, and they were just lit up in block, like the organs were highlighted in block colours, so bright green, bright red. But in essence, what it did was said, there's the liver, there's the whatever, and that enabled, like, it's early stages, but what that enabled him to do, or them to do, is it's starting to assess what's happening, and it's starting to create tools that will turn into almost like safety nets. So in their surgery, they're operating with millimeter precision sometimes, and when they're doing that surgery, and you're doing a marathon surgery and whatever, you get tired, and the AI can assist with stopping you from cutting the red wire. I'm using using a bomb analogy, but in essence it is that, because he says you can shorten someone's life by 10 years just by cutting the wrong thing sometimes.
Amazing.
Yeah, so the AI is slowly developing there so that they can use it as a safety net tool to stop them from cutting, and we're talking millimeters. We're not talking, whoops, that was your arm when I was supposed to be operating on your leg. Or I marked the wrong leg with the black texter. No, we're talking like millimeter precision. So that's crazy stuff. Yeah,
that gets into deep tech, and that's, I think, again, it's empowering. When I say it's empowering creativity, it's also in those environments. Like, that's an extremely creative application of the technology, and I think that's only going to accelerate. And once we have those technologies in our own life, I think that's amazing. Already stuff coming out on the Quest 3 to learn how to play piano with the AR glasses on, and it's showing you where to put your fingers, and it's giving you that first person experience of playing a piano. It's just amazing, and that technology is only going to expand and accelerate our learning as humans, and that's the thing I'm interested in. Like, you already see it these days, that you see kids that are younger and younger doing more amazing things. Like, in my feed on Instagram, there's always a kid that's doing some amazing dance choreography, or just some physical feat or mental feat, and you're like playing instruments, and that wouldn't have been possible if they weren't their exponential potential wasn't limited by in a linear form. So that because of the technology, they're allowed to express their creativity in an exponential way and learn super quickly. And that's a mindset that when you start that from young, that has a compounding effect as you get older. So I think we're going to live longer because we're going to embody the importance of consistent learning as humans, and that's going to keep our minds active. It's going to keep our bodies active for a lot longer than we are at the moment.
Plus the technology that'll come with it, which will. I read something really interesting about a guy researching into living longer, and it's also a really interesting field. I see AI as being a lot of sensors on your cars. there's heaps in transport, but some of that, the sensors on your cars being able to detect when you're close to things and stuff like that, like all of those extra eyes on what's going on surely means that the errors will come less often in certain fields once it's developed, and just reducing errors, and then which I guess enables growth of many kinds.
Definitely.
So it's just it's going to explode, isn't it?
Yep, that's it.
So back to Polynize. Polynize is an educational platform, basically, using AI technology. Where do you want it to go? And you've iterated, you're on your third iteration, you said. Where do you want it to go from here?
Yeah, we see education needs to be decentralized, democratized. Everyone has something important to teach people, and we think that giving them a process to engage users in this playful manner is the way to learn in the future. And that's because what we see is important is understanding what the Japanese call their ikigai. So someone's what they're good at matches with their purpose, matches with their passion, matches with what the world values. That's how we should be teaching our youth and letting them lead their own life in that way, as opposed to what we're doing now, which is we're teaching them a bunch of useless information of which they'll use probably 1%, if that. Yes, obviously reading and writing and all the early skills is one thing, but learning needs to become unique to the individual, or shaped around the individual, and our current system doesn't allow that. We think I can see the future where AI actually allows that to happen. It actually allows us to have tailored learning plans for each individual. And so we're in the early stages of gathering that data, creating the skill sets to train these different skills in different areas, using scenarios that are more interesting are more suited or engaging to the individual themselves. So if you were learning let's just say physics, for instance, and you're learning dry physics, it takes a lot for you to compute that because it's so abstract. But as soon as someone puts it into a game like Sharav has, which is the game is about learning physics through creating a catapult, basically. And so automatically that gives you a context that makes something tangible. And all of a sudden you're not focusing on the learning, you're focusing on the what's this catapult going to do? How far can it be flung? So those kinds of learning, which obviously, there are, and this is what we're seeing, is that there's so many passionate teachers in the system. They actually want to teach, and they're so passionate about the future of these children, but they're limited by the curriculum that they're given. They're put inside a box. You only can teach this, and so they're very limited with what they can do. So what we're seeing is, so we had an example last week where teacher's super passionate about Polynize. She took it to the school, took it to the principal. The principal said, "Nah." He didn't say no directly, but he gave that typical bureaucratic response, which is, we'll have to bring it to the next meeting and see what everyone says. And, so it's basically saying no. And so she's adopted it as essentially homework. So she's given it as homework to some of her students and taken it upon herself to give them something fun to do, to learn empathy above everything, because she was looking at the stuff that's going on globally at the moment, especially in Israel and Palestine, and she was wanting to teach her students empathy, and so she's done that through she's doing that through games, through Polynize. Yeah,
that's really interesting. I think I know it's buzz at the moment as well. It's not as buzz as AI, but the neurodivergence exploration that's happening at the moment, I think, is going pretty hard. Their argument, from their perspective, is that there's a lot of students getting left behind because of the way we teach, and it feels like this sort of the gamifying thing may be able to adapt to those people as well, the fidgety kids and do you think that it's going to help that spectrum of people?
100%. I think I only recently have been diagnosed as a high-functioning ADHD, and even my therapist said he doesn't like that terminology because it makes neurodivergence feel like like something wrong. It's divergent from normal, so somehow you have the problem. But the reality is that we're going exponential. So you can tell, you can see it in our youth that they don't like these linear models because it doesn't work with their way their minds work.
Yep.
So psychology is saying that normal is good, and anything that's divergent from that is somehow bad.
Yep.
But that's totally misdirected, because I can feel the superpower of my neurodivergence, and I think that needs to be fostered in education, not the opposite.
Yeah.
Not hindered and medicated. That's just the totally wrong thing to do. So I can see our children going... I've been thinking about this in the last week or so. I can see our kids going quantum, basically. Right. Like we've been in a Newtonian linear model, and now the kids that are being born these days are feeling, only thing I can call it is quantum. You can even hear it in the way they speak about gender. It's non-binary. It's fluid. That's quantum speak. So they're feeling this idea of I don't have to identify with any one thing. I can identify with whatever I feel like at the time. And that's totally right. That's totally where we can go as exponential beings. And we just have this restrictive system that's been placed on, especially in learning and education, which is anchored in this 200-year archaic model. And it needs to evolve in order for humans to evolve.
Yeah, I think it does too. And, the cane, we got rid of that. So surely we can...
Eventually. It took us a while.
Move the cane.
Yeah. Used to be the 30-centimetre wooden ruler at school. I remember that in primary school a few times.
Oh, the nuns. And yeah. Well, look, I can't wait to see what you're going to do with Polynize.
Thank you.
Because I know you've been working on it for a while. And I know, I've known you for a long time. You're probably one of the few people that I would allow myself to get stuck in a drum circle with. I've got a photo somewhere of you with a big afro, and, your music is very much part of your life. So,
definitely.
But the entrepreneur side, like you've had multiple businesses along the way. You've built a lot of things. We were talking earlier about like a furniture style business that you had at one point. So I know that you're out there and you're giving things a go, and you've always have been. So I'm excited to see what it is that you're going to do with this. And, you've got some funding now, which means someone else gets it as well, which is great. And so, yeah, I look forward to what you're going to do with it.
Thanks, Andy. I appreciate that. So we're on the edge of something here, and driven by our passion for education and for technology. So we feel like we're living our ikigai through this, and every day is just a pleasure, because you wake up inspired to work on something that you're really passionate about. So the only thing we want is that for everyone, everyone to feel that, and I think education is the number one thing to change that.
Well, they say if you're going to change, anything, you should change the kids. Like help the kids, because they're the ones who are going to. The ripple effect will come from the kids.
Or just get out of their way. That's what adults have to do. It's not about us imposing anything on them. It's about letting them evolve the way they need to evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, great chat. Thank you. Thanks for coming across to the In Other Good News podcast studios today.
Thank you.
Enjoying a coffee and a chat.
Sure.
It's a pleasure. And it's been too long between drinks, so I'll have to make sure I catch up with you soon. And if you have any major developments, we'll get you back.
Of course. Love to.
And we'll talk about it some more. Thank you so much, Marrs.
Thanks,
for
Andy.
Coming on the show. Marrs Coiro, everyone here from Polynize. That's POLYNIZE.
Correct.
.io. And you can go there and start some games or join the system there. Or you can read Marrs's posts if you follow him, and you can see why he thinks university's a scam.
It's a provocation we just dropped this week. Yep.
This has been the Good People Podcast. My name is Andy. It's all brought to you by In Other Good News. If you like what you're hearing, make sure you tell a friend and share this with others, because that helps us spread the word of the podcast. We'd love to share these stories with as many people as possible. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. hit that little bell button, and we get new videos every week. So, yeah, get on that and make sure, like I say, tell your friends because that helps us so much. Marrs, thank you so much. And until next time, this has been the Good People Podcast.
Well, it's a tip of the cap, it's a pat on the back, it's a smile from ear to ear. They're the good people from round here. They're the good people from round here. Come on, let me introduce you to a few.